We're going to take our first in-depth look at the Kellogg article called Professional Writing Expertise. The most important thing to start out with is to know what all the important words mean. And I know that it's sometimes hard to figure out what is an important word that I really should look up and what's something that I can kind of let slide by. But hopefully you'll figure it out as you're reading along, and then you might have to go back to look up words that are repeated and you feel like, yeah, that keeps coming up, or that seemed like a really crucial word. I really should look that up if I don't know what it means already. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about looking up words. I have a PhD in English, and I look up words in my dictionary on my computer every single day. So it's a very important habit to get into when you're reading college-level texts. You might not understand some of the words in this text because they're outside of your field. This is a text about writing. It's in the field of writing studies. So if you're going into biology, you might be more familiar with some biology words that a non-biologist would not be. So reading those kinds of texts might be a little bit easier for you once we get to that. This is the chapter Professional Writing Expertise by Ronald T. Kellogg. I'll probably be referring to this article as the Kellogg article during this class because it's just easier than saying the full title. So you notice that this is a chapter. It's not a standalone article, so the MLA citation style is going to be a little bit different. Now, I should just say, don't worry too much about MLA style if you are not familiar with it. You definitely don't need to learn it by heart in this class. It would be useful if you learn more about it if you're going into a field like literature or art or music that uses MLA style, but if that's not the style that your field uses, and you'll find out more about what that is, then don't worry too much about it. I've just started with MLA style because that's the one that we'll use on our first paper. So I have an MLA citation here at the top of the page. I've just added that for my own reasons, and you can see that here the title is in, the short title of the section of the book is in quotation marks. I've noticed a mistake. This is the whole title of the entire book, and that should be underlined. So I'm just going to correct that. Now, the formatting of this page probably looks different than yours. This is an early copy of this article. It's not in the textbook format. So your page may look different than this, but that's okay. It's the exact same content. I've just added a couple of notes on it. So starting at the top of the document, you have the title here, of course, the author's name. There are keywords here, and those appear on newer articles and chapters to make it more easily searchable when you're doing an internet database search. So you have some keywords that reflect the content of this article, and then it starts with the introduction of the article. Now, many articles that y'all are going to be looking at will start with an abstract, which is a summary of the whole article. But this one doesn't have that because it's in the humanities, so it just starts with the introduction of what the author is going to say. Now, the introduction is a very important place to look in an article because it gives you a preview of what the article is going to be about. That's pretty common knowledge. But the conclusion is also very important. So I want to go ahead and go down to that because it has some important information, especially for our purposes, for how to read this chapter. All right, I've scrolled down to the very end of the article. You can see that I'm at the conclusion. This summarizes what the author has said in this article. And I wanted to point out that this article is a little bit different than the ones that y'all will be reading because not only is it in a book chapter, but it's also a review of findings. It doesn't have original research. So the last sentence is that much remains to be discovered about the skills of professional writers in longitudinal, you might want to look that word up, longitudinal studies of their development would be particularly informative. But those aspiring to the role of professional writers can learn from the findings reviewed here. So that will really affect how you read this article because it's a review of findings. It's not the author's own original finding. Okay, now we're back at the beginning of the article. And another thing that you want to do when you start reading an article of this kind, because it's complex, it's dense, it's written for an audience of basically your professors, or people who are farther along in their education than you. You'll want to define some terms. Now, I know that it's sometimes difficult to decide when you should look up words, you should take the time away from your reading to consult a dictionary, and when you should just keep going, because you'll probably encounter a lot of words that you don't know yet, but you'll learn them, and it'll really slow you down if you look up every single one. So just try to figure out what the word means from the context around it and from the way that it's used a little farther down. If you keep encountering the same word and you haven't been able to figure out the meaning from those techniques, then it's probably an indication that you need to stop and consult a dictionary. Now, looking up words in a dictionary, there's nothing to be ashamed about that. You're learning new words, you're in college, and I'll just tell you that I have a PhD in English, and I look up words in the dictionary function of my computer every single day. So, I wanted to draw your attention to a word that just in the first sentence you might need to define, and we'll use this as an example. So the very first sentence of the article says, writing extended text for publication is a major cognitive challenge, even for professionals who compose for a living. So say you don't know what the word cognitive means. In your own copy, and it will be easier for you if you're working with a paper hard copy because you can make notes on it, you want to write in the definition that you find in a dictionary, just to get in this habit. So I've defined it here. Cognitive means the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought. So it has to do with thinking. You might have known that word already, but that's okay. I've got another one down here. In case you're not very familiar with chess terms, then you might have needed to just check on the word checkmate. So you know that it's from chess. It says, an expert in chess successfully checkmates the opponent, and the allowable moves in the game are defined. I think that should read clearly. So say checkmates is a word you need to look up. I have it over here on the margin. The definition is that it means to defeat or frustrate totally. So looking up words is something that you want to get in the habit of. Also, trying to get an idea of what the structure of this article will also help you just understand what parts will be more important than others and the overall organization. You won't comment on those features in your summary, but you will in your rhetorical analysis in the next unit of the class. So what I've done here is basically made kind of a visual outline of the different sections and the hierarchy of the sections in this article. So this text, in my version, it was bolded. Introduction is in bold. And then defining professional writing is a heading after that, and it's actually a subheading. This is bold and in italics, and so is this one. What this means organizationally is that a major heading, that would be kind of like a Roman numeral in an outline form, is in bold in this document, and then the next level of subheading is in bold and italics. So defining professional writing and cognitive demands of writing. If you're doing an outline, that's like the capital letters A and B. So I've done the first few headings here just to show kind of the hierarchy of these sections. So I found that here's another just simply bold heading. So that corresponds to the type of section that the introduction was. So you have the introduction, now it's a new section. It's no longer the introduction. That's what this formatting tells me. The formatting will be different on different kinds of articles, but it's something that you want to pay attention to because it gives you a clue about what the different sections mean and how to read them. So continuing, I've highlighted this in red because it's like the introduction, so say this is a Roman numeral 2, excuse me. And then after that, you have the different, the next level down of the hierarchy, which would be Roman numeral A and then Roman numeral B. But we have some other sections here. So this is a different type of formatting. And I know that it's a kind that goes under the italicized form. This is in all capitalizations and it's not in bold because of the way that it's written. So this is about language use by professional writers. Professional writers use language to activate extensive associations among verbal and imaginal representations in the reader. It continues, Professional writers aim to engage the reader in such deep comprehension. How can their skill in doing so be characterized? So it asks a question about this topic, and then it proceeds to have two subtopics or subtopics under that one. So you have verbal ability, which again, pay attention to the formatting. It's not in bold and it's in all capitalization, so that's a different kind of section. And then corresponding to that, these would be like Arabic numerals, Arabic numbers 1 and 2. You also have concrete language. Then you go back to, and I stopped highlighting in colors here, managing the cognitive load, which is in italics and corresponds to language use, which would be like, managing cognitive load would be like capital letter B. So it might really help you to make an outline of the way that this piece is organized so that you can see how the author has organized the major and minor points, because that's something that I'll be looking for in your summary paper to see that you're able to grasp that. So basically, understanding the organization, checking the key areas of the text, which are the beginning and the conclusion of the text, so you're previewing in that way, and then going along and defining words as you need them defined, and when you're pretty sure that it's a major word, and you can just quickly check the definition and then write it on your paper so that when you're rereading, you can reinforce the meaning of that and you don't have to keep looking it up every time. These are some basic skills that will help you when you're starting to read any academic text, and definitely for this one. So go ahead and read the Kellogg article with those techniques that I just mentioned, and that will help you get ready for your summary paper while you summarize the meaning, especially the major points of Ronald T. Kellogg in this article or this chapter, Professional Writing Expertise. So we went over some key strategies that will help you understand a complex, difficult academic text whenever you encounter them. You'll definitely use these when you start to read and analyze your academic text later in the class. So just to review, those are understanding the structure of the text so that it can help you differentiate between major and minor sections. Also just previewing what the introduction says and what the conclusion says, because you can get the best idea of what the article is trying to accomplish and what it means by just checking those two parts. So it's making really efficient use of your time. That will give you an overview of the article so that you can kind of slot in the ideas and have a better background of them before you start reading the particulars. And finally, looking up words that you don't understand. This is very, very important. You'll get better at deciding when you should stop your reading and consult a dictionary, and when you can just keep going because you may not understand that term, but it's only referred to once, and you can get the gist of what the meaning is without stopping to look that word up. So these are key reading strategies that you need to take with you after this class, because they'll help you in any college reading that you attempt.